Hello, very good evening, everyone. Welcome to our 221 session of Center's webinar series for teachers. I hope all of you are doing great and fine. We have such a great session prepared for you. And for today's topic, we have 21st century skills, and the facilitator for today's session is Miss Khushbu Sareen. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, Rastogi ma'am.
So I see people still joining in. So we give like 2 to 3 minutes before we start up. So while we do that, I'll just give a brief about ma'am here. So Miss Khushbu Singh, she is a Google certified Adobe Creative and Microsoft Innovative Educator. She has lots of accolades to her name. Let me tell you that. So she has worked as an academic coordinator for grade 3 to 5. Above that, she has worked as an SPOC on school's behalf for Khan's Academy and asset for education initiatives. I think ma'am would tell more about on that. And she being a strong supporter of SDGs, she has led teams on various projects. I think one of them she has listed here is like bringing path-breaking changes by implementing those SDGs. And it is in partnership with UN. So such a great thing. And not to forget that she has also been listed under top 100 educators for Earth projects, which was organized by THG. So hearty welcome, ma'am. It's
Thank
it's
you
an
so much.
honor having you here. Okay, so
It's an
I
honor
believe
to
that
be here to get such a great platform to represent myself. Thank you so much.
thank you. We cannot like we are waiting to talk more about the content that you have prepared for us. Before we move to the content and I hand over the session to ma'am, there are a few quick things. Um, So we will be sharing the participation certificates, but you have to fill up the feedback form. The feedback form will be shared 15, 20 minutes before the session end. So please give your queries throughout the session. We will take up the queries throughout the session as well as please fill the feedback form to get the participation certificate. Otherwise, it might be difficult to hand you the participation certificate and missing out such a great session. Um, so ma'am, over to you.
Thank you so much, Rastogi ma'am. I was eagerly waiting for this session from a long time now. It was long due from my side. So, yes, without further ado, we'll be starting with the session today, which is on, you know, uh, thought provoking, you may say, or the need of the hour, 21st century skills. As you all know, that we have already entered 21st century, and the skills which are required for 21st century are, have become an integral part of today's scenario whatsoever is changing these days. So now let's take a look on what these skills are and how these skills are required to cope up with the scenarios and the situations coming up in the future, or you may say the challenges which are in our way in this 21st century or maybe further. So, if I talk about 21st century skills, or you may say learning skills, or maybe transversal competencies, by these words, what actually comes into your mind? So, this is a question for you here. Please, there's a Mentimeter link which is shared with you all in the chat box, and you have to go and give your understanding about the 21st century skills on, or you can say, what do you understand by the word transversal competencies, or what is the meaning of uh, these skills, learning skills. What are these? What are these? So a link has been shared with you all in the chat box, and it is reflecting on the screen. So you may click on the link, and you have to type the answer, that what are 21st century skills? What do you understand by the term 21st century skills? What is that according to you? So I'm just waiting for the answers, and it is quite easy to answer this question, and this is quite around us. So this is what I would like to say about it, that how 21st century skills work. What do you understand by the term 21st century? Yes, being tech savvy, application of life skills, yes. Emotional quotient, yes. Multitasking skills, diverse ability, current developing world, yes. Skills required for present world, or you may say current development, or things which are for exploring, being innovative. Yes, you are right. Collaboration, yes. So being creative, yes. Being scientific, being technology friendly, yes. So yes, all the answers, if we say that what are 21st century skills or transversal competencies, all the answers which are coming up by you from your end is correct. So that makes my task really easy about, about the topic, to explain what are 21st century skills. Moving on to the topic again. Yes, so 21st century skills are the skills or the abilities which are required to succeed in this 21st century society, since the times change and we change with them. And if we don't, so then what happens? If the time if we are not changing ourselves with times, then what happens? Then we are left behind, right? So we have to be upgraded all the times. We have to learn these skills, and we have to, make our students capable for facing the challenges which are upcoming in this 21st century, in these changing times. So yes, that makes my task really easy to explain 21st century skills to you people. Now the question arises, what is the need for these 21st century skills? And again, there will be the using the same mentimeter link, you can answer for this question, that what is, we talk about 21st century skills. We said that these are the abilities or the learnings which are required to deal with the situations in this 21st century. So what is the need? Why do we have to deal with these kind of things, and why do we have to learn certain particular skills to cope up with today's scenario? So yes, we already have three responses, which is which says that curiosity, collaboration, and creativity. Wow, what a beautiful answer I have received. Yes, curiosity. So being curious makes you being being a learner every time. You keep on learning if you are curious. You need interpersonal skills. Okay, creative skills are required. Collaboration is required. Okay, so yes, new skills are required, digital devices and use are there. Okay, so yes, all these things are required, but if we talk about what is the need, why do we need these skills? These all are interpersonal skills. Okay, you're talking about the skills to teach effectively. Yes, as per the vision, as a teacher, so yes, these skills are required to teach the concepts, the content very effectively to the students. Yes, correct. We have to be the problem solvers. Yes, exactly. We have to prepare our students. We need new skills or new features for new future. So to be upgraded, yes, all these are the needs, and we have to be the decision makers because of the digitalization, the speed of life. Yes, all these are the parameters which lead to the need of 21st century skills. So yes, if we say that the need of 21st century skills is the changing scenarios of today's world, the days are changing. The technology is changing so fast these days that if you have to succeed, if you want your learners to succeed in the world, in this new world, or to cope up with the technologies which are upcoming, so they have to learn unlearn and then relearn. So this thing has to be the mantra of 21st century. So yes, for that we need certain skills. So we need to unlearn certain skills, we need to relearn certain skills, and we need to learn some new skills to be upgraded, to be ready for everyday changing technology, everyday changing scenarios. If we talk about the technology, the advancements are coming, we are leading to a future which is changing every day. Every day, every now and then a new technology is coming up, any upgradation is coming up. So to cope up with such scenarios, we need 21st century skills. So now, today, we are going to understand what these skills are and how and why they are required for our learners and for us to be the 21st century learners or to be the 21st century educators. So, if we talk about the 21st century skills, they are broadly divided into three L's. If we talk about them, they are learning skills, literacy skills, and life skills. All these three skills are really an integral part of today's scenario, today's era. We'll be touching up all these skills one by one. So, if we talk about learning skills, so learning skills are further classified into four categories. If we talk about them, these are very famously known as four C's. We commonly call them the four C's, that is the critical thinking, the creativity, the collaboration, and the communication. So, yes, if we talk about critical thinking is something which has to be developed as a super skill, or you can say the collaboration. It is also needed for today's scenario. Creativity is also needed, and communication is, of course, needed in all the times. So, my question to you is how to develop these super skills in students. So there's a Padlet link which is shared in the comment section, and I want you people to type on that Padlet link that why there is a need for these super skills. How can you develop these super skills in your students, among your students? So I'm waiting for the answers that how can these skills be developed among the students. So let's see what answers we get for it. So if we talk about the critical thinking part, critical thinking is required for everything, everyday problems, even the small problem requires critical thinking. You have to critically analyze the problem. You have to critically think about the solution. You have to critically make the decision about the problem. So how can this critical thinking be developed among the students? Yes, one of the best examples to make our students, to make our learners be a critical thinker is hands-on experience. When we give them experiential learning or hands-on experience on certain concepts or certain scenarios, they become critical thinkers. They try to solve the problem, they try to analyze the problem, they become decision makers. So yes, the knowledge of the skill, or you may say information technology, correct. So these are certain ideas which can develop critical thinking among students. I would like to know more about this concept, that how do you think you can develop this critical thinking or 21st century skill among your students? How can it be developed among your students? What will you do to develop these 21st century skills among your students? So yes, I'm waiting for the answers still. So if we talk about the critical thinking, so we make our children, we make our learners the logical thinkers. If we talk about the critical thinking, So when we are promoting critical thinking among our learners, we are promoting the logical reasoning among them. We are making them the problem solvers, right? So I want the answer that how can it be developed among students? How can you develop critical thinking among students? So, yes, we'll keep on discussing these answers side by side, and let's move on to the discussion further, that how it can be developed, how these super skills, how these four C's can be developed among the students. So, if we talk about the critical thinking, so critical thinking comes when there's a problem. So, whenever we put forward a problem among our learners, there's a chance that we are providing our learners to think about it. And thinking and analyzing that problem leads to a solution. And hence, by giving the little problems during the concepts or during the classrooms, during the day to day classrooms, we are preparing our learners to be critical thinkers for future. That means we are making them ready for life. We are making them ready for critical thinking in life. That how will they critically analyze any problem which is coming across in any point in time in their life. So, if we talk about this critical thinking concept in detail, what is critical thinking? It is the ability to carefully analyze something to get better understanding and to go deeper about that problem, right? So, if we talk about critical thinking in detail, so we need effective reasoning in that. So we have to train our learners that how they can effectively reason about a particular problem. So what can be done for that is that when a problem is put forward in front of the learners, they should be guided to use the logic to develop and test a hypothesis which can be built related to the challenge or the problem which is put forward in front of them. Then comes rational thinking. We have to, guide them to think rationally. That means we have to make them able to think with reason. That we have to tell them that everything has a reason. If they have formed a hypothesis, it has a reason. So then they have to analyze that problem. That means the problem which is put forward for them has to be analyzed. How will they analyze the problem? The learners can break down that problem into small parts, and then they can work upon each small part, and then they can note that how the smaller parts fit together as a problem to be a whole quantity. So if we move forward, it says that recognizing and assessing values. So when they have broken the problems, when they have analyzed the problems, they might have found certain reasons for that, and they might have recognized or assessed the authenticity of the problem, or the authenticity of the knowledge, or the conclusions or the facts drawn so far. And then on the basis of that assessment, they can evaluate the problem. That means they can evaluate by saying that whether the drawn conclusion is based on the logic or the skill that has been applied or not. And then the last step in critical thinking is decision making. That means we are enabling the learners to take relevant decisions upon the finding of the problem. That means whether they have found a solution or not. The best example for this is, let's say that a child has to ride a bicycle. So the problem in front of him is that he has to learn riding the bicycle. Now, how will he effectively reason for that? So first he will understand the need. Why does he need to ride that bicycle, right? So once he has understood the need, So he has formed a hypothesis that yes, I can ride a bicycle because I need the riding bicycle. I need to ride the bicycle for so and so reason. So now he has to think rationally that how logically he is correct about the reason he has found for this problem. Now, the question arises in front of him is that how can he make that thing possible? So that means he has to analyze the small parts of the problem. How will he make it possible that he can ride the bicycle? So, for that, what he can do is he can understand the balancing, how he has to maintain the balance, how he has to put how the weight has to be put on the bicycle, how it has to be paddled forward. So he will break down the problems into smaller parts. And assessing values means now he will assess whether he's able to whether he's able to solve those problems which were broken down into smaller parts, and whether those smaller problems are collectively working towards the riding of the bicycle or not. So then, on the basis of that, he will evaluate that whether he was able to ride the bicycle in the correct manner or not, and then he'll make the decision upon his evaluations that whether he wants to continue riding the bicycle in the same way, or he has to try some other method, or he has to try or build some other hypothesis related to it. So this is one of the examples how the children can be made critical thinkers. So if you want to include critical thinking into your day-to-day routine, you can ask riddles. You can promote impromptu debates in the classrooms on certain topics, which will help them to think, to reason, to think logically, to think rationally, and then to take decisions well. So that will make the learners the critical thinkers. The next C, the second C in this skill is creativity. What is creativity? Creativity is basically the ability to think about a task in a different manner. Or, in simple words, we can say that enabling our thinkers, our learners to think out of the box, to bring the ideas which are not being used so frequently. So, for that, what can be done is that you can promote many different activities in the classrooms. Like if I talk about my subject, my teaching subject is mathematics, and how do I use creativity in mathematics? I believe that creativity and mathematics go hand in hand. It's not only about the abstraction of mathematics, but also about the creativity which can be brought into the subject, with the help of music, with the help of dance, with the help of thinking just into the space, or maybe painting, or maybe creating a design using certain mathematical concepts. Here I would like to quote one example of very interesting topic which can be where creativity can be used to its fullest, is angles. If I talk about angles in mathematics, the topic is such that it has such a vast scope for the creativity. So one day I asked my children in the classroom to tell angles while dancing on the music. So they described the types of angles while they were dancing, and they were, making the poses, and they were telling the angles in the poses, even in the yoga postures, or, even when they are moving around in their classrooms, they are moving the doors and the windows. There are angles everywhere. So it's just that we have to make them imaginative to enhance their creativity. So, this is one of the ways in which you can enhance the creativity among children and enable them with this one of the skills of 21st century. Moving on to the third C, which is collaboration. So, as the word suggests, collaboration. What is collaboration? Collaboration is to collaborate or to work together for the better output, for the better results on certain things, for the better results on certain problems. For that, this can be promoted by various activities in classrooms. So, for collaborations, my favorite is Damsharats. So, it can be a very good example where the kids, where the children, where the learners, or even if we talk about the teachers, if we have to, have to do the collaboration among the colleagues. So dumb charades or the chain games or the save the last word for me, all these activities work wonders. So if I talk about dumb charades, so they have to understand the hints without verbal gestures, without any words. So they have to work as a team, they have to work as collaborators, and they have to guess or they have to find out the solution for the problem, right? So if they are playing dumb charades, they are basically connecting with each other. They are making a connect with each other, wherein subconsciously, although they are playing one game, it's a very common game which they are playing, but still subconsciously they are just getting ready for the future. That means they will be comfortable with the team, they will be comfortable to collaborate to bring out beautiful results about something. And if I talk about hands on projects, even if you break them down into small teams and assign certain work, then you will see that these learners, they utilize the strength of each team member so beautifully that you could not even have imagined about it. For this, I'll give you one example. So what I did was, I was teaching profit and loss the other day, and I gave them a project for role play, that they have to plan a script for a role play and then they have to enact it. I divided the class into small groups, and each group was given one amount, on the basis of which they decided that what item they will be choosing and how they will be depicting profit and loss. So then what happened, that when they started, they divided the roles so nicely, that who will script, who will write the script for the role play, who will do the calculations, who will do the setup, everything, who will do the enactment. So everything was so well planned, and they collaborated in such a manner that I could not believe that I just gave them 10 minutes for all that planning, and they brought up the plays which were brought up by them were wonderful. And I would like to quote here that those were the questions which were the exercise questions of their book. So the class was divided into five parts, and there were five questions in the exercise of profit and loss. So I gave one question to each group and told them to represent it. Another example is, when I gave a project on budgeting. Again, it was a hands-on project wherein money was involved. We were studying, we were learning the chapter of money, and then they had to budget, they had to plan a budget for a month for their household. So they worked together and collaborated together, and they prepared a budget so well. Even to my surprise, there were few children who were very comfortable with using Excel sheets. So they prepared beautiful budgets using Excel sheets. So these are certain skills, which can be used, which can be enhanced by taking small gestures. Where when you take small gestures, when you take small initiatives in your classroom, it can work wonders for collaboration. Moving on to the last C in the four C's, which is communication. It is, one of the most important C's if we talk about, because communication makes the students enable to exchange thoughts, to exchange ideas, or to express what they want to say, or to convey whatsoever information they want to give, or impart, or to convey it to you. They are able to convey it well if they can communicate well. So the best activities which can be played for these skills in day to day routine are certain a few activities which are being reflected on the screen. So if I talk about communication, it can be verbal as well as non-verbal, right? So feelings are important, as the screen says that feelings are important. So yes, feelings are very important. Sometimes a person does not want to communicate verbally what the person is feeling, but yes, it has to be sensed out by others, by the loved ones. So if we are not providing these communication skills well to our learners, so we are, making them lack somewhere or the other. So we have to make them understand that the feelings of everybody around them are important, and how can they analyze, how can they recognize the feelings by the gestures which are non-verbal, which are unsaid. Maybe somebody is feeling sad someday, so it can happen that the person is quiet, or maybe the person is angry, so that person will keep on shouting, or will fight with one or the other person. So we have to make them understand that instead of complaining about such gestures, we have to be receptive for that, and we have to reach to the root cause of that communication, that why this communication has happened, whether verbal or non-verbal, why this communication has happened. So to develop, to build this skill further, it can be a guide for the blindfold. So what it has to be, how it can be played, it can also be called the trust game, building the trust on each other. So what you can do, you can divide your classroom into pairs, and what can be done is that one person can be blindfolded and the other can be the guide to that person, and you can send your children on a round to your school, to the corridors or maybe to the ground, wherein the guide has to give instructions to the blindfolded one, and the blindfolded has to listen to the instructions and has to have a faith into the instructions of the guide. So this will enhance a trust relationship between the peers, among the peers, so that they are able to communicate effectively with each other, they are able to understand each other well, they are able to understand how they have to guide their friends and how they have to follow their friends through communication. And there can be a silence talk day also, wherein the children, they may be silent for the entire day. That means there are no words spoken in the classroom or in the corridors. And what has to be done, if they have to convey a message, they have to use the non-verbal gestures. They may be actions, they may be expressions. So this will help them to understand even the non-verbal gestures of others. Then there can be role reversals also, right? There can be a students class. That means only students are leading the class and there is no teacher. The teacher can take the facilitator, the educator can take a back seat, and the class can be led by the students, and they are able to, they have to communicate what tasks have to be done. They will plan their classroom, they will organize the things, they will manage the things, they will manage the smart boards and all the things well. And that can be one of the ways to wherein the communication can be used, can be enhanced, this skill can be enhanced by doing that. Even, if we promote the telephonic conversations, it's very common in English. If we talk about this concept, if we talk about this idea, having a dialogue, so they may act that they are using a telephone and they are having a telephonic conversation, and one person has to convey a message to the for a third person, and the person who is on the line, on the other hand, is taking the message for that third person. So this is one of the ways wherein communication can be built among the children. Now, moving on to the second L, which is the literacy skills, which involves information, media, and technology. So, here I have a question for all of you. I want you to think about a situation where you are living in a space station and suddenly the space station malfunctions, and you have to evacuate the space stations, and you can just take 5 items with you. Which items will you choose, and why will you choose those items? You have to type the answers in the chat box. Which items will you choose, and why will you take those items with you? You have to type your answers in the chat box. Okay, so I'm repeating my question. My question is that you are living, there's a situation where you are living on a space station, and suddenly the space station has malfunctioned. And what you have to do is you have to vacate the space station, and you can take only 5 items from there with you to survive. What 5 items will you take with you, and why? So yes, the first response has come to us is oxygen cylinder. Yes, of course, oxygen cylinder is required because you are evacuating out of a space station. So you need an oxygen cylinder. Yes, that's correct. And what else? What can be taken along with? What can you take along the with you? What all items can be taken along with you? Food items, okay. Oxygen cylinder again, right? So you have to tell why. You have to answer why it has to be taken. Control panel, phone, yes, correct. Okay, this is much needed these days. Communication devices, of course. If you're not able to build a communication, you have to, you will get lost into the space. Life jacket, all right. So we have oxygen cylinder, we have food supplies, we have communication network, okay. Then we have life jacket. And what can be the fifth one? Communication devices is done. Okay, mobile phone is a communication device, so we will keep it in one category. It's a basic tool, yes, correct. So my question is that how mobile phone can be taken to a space station? Can you use a mobile phone in the space station? Transmitter, right? Transmitter is a means of communication. Okay, somebody said water. All right, yes. If you can justify that, how water and how will you be using water and food? Yes, if we talk about all these things which you are describing, the oxygen cylinder, the communication devices, it can be a radio, phone, okay. The person said oxygen, food, books, laptop. Okay, it's important for, yes, it may vary from individual to individual also, right? Everybody has their own perceptions and own needs. So for that, it can vary for every individual, right? But if we talk about this problem as a whole, information is required for this. When you have to evacuate, you need the information, you need the media, and you need the technology. All these three things are required. Information, how information is required, how will you be utilizing your information? That you know that you will be needing oxygen cylinder, you will be needing communication device, you will be needing food supplies, right? You will be needing life jacket. This is your information, what information you have about evacuation, right? How media and technology comes into place, if we talk about the communication, right? So when you have to communicate, when you talk about the life saving kit, so that involves technology, that involves media. So if we talk about the communication devices that will involve media, and the technology can be used in life jackets or life saving kits. So all these things will require certain technology. Even the oxygen cylinders, certain technology has been used to develop that oxygen cylinder. So yes, all these three parameters work hand in hand. And when we have information, when we have media with us, we have the knowledge of media, when we have the knowledge of technology, that makes us gather this second L of 21st century skills. And this is also known as IMT for short. Moving on, so if we talk about how information, media, and technology is interrelated. So, media is what? Media is basically the blog posts, the social media, any platform which is being used to gather the information. And how are we gathering that information? How are we using that information? How are we operating that media? We are operating that media using a technology. A technology can be anything, right? It can be a scratch program, it can be a PowerPoint presentation, it can be a website, it can be a browser, it can be it can be a device which is used to operate such medias like blog posts, blogs, or maybe some other social media apps. So all these things work hand in hand, and they have become an integral part in this 21st century. That means even in the fraction of seconds, the information is changing these days. If we talk about, so if we take an example of yesterday's match, the World Cup is going on, and yesterday was a semi-final match. So even in the fraction of seconds, even in the seconds, or you can say even in the minutes, the decision, the game was changing. That sometimes it was going into the favor of New Zealand, and sometimes it was going into the favor of India. And how were we getting that information? We were getting that information through media, through channels, through news channels, through the broadcasts. And how those broadcasts were being watched, those were watched using the screens, which is the technology. So this is how the literacy skills are working hand in hand in today's scenario. Now if we move on to the third L of our 21st century skills, it involves various parameters. So first we have to understand what is life skill. And according to me, this is one of the most important skills required for the survival. Because subconsciously, when we talk about our content, when we are imparting education, when we are talking about the classroom studies, we are we are imparting those things. We are teaching technology to our learners. We are talking about the information. We are imparting information through books, through various media. And even if we talk about the learning skills, we are making them problem solvers, we are making them critical thinkers in one or the other way, we are making them enable to communicate with each other, we are making them creative. But the question here is that, are we making them ready for the life which wherein they have to deal with other human beings and other living creatures? Are we making them ready for cope up with the emotional challenges which are going to be coming in the life forward? So yes, for that, this life skill is really important. We have to prepare our children for being flexible, for being leaders, for being for taking initiatives, for being productive, and for being socially very active. That means they should be socially active. They should be socially responsible, because ultimately we are preparing our learners for this society. So now if we talk about this life skill as a whole, what is life skill? Life skill is basically equipping someone to thrive into the world, right? To excel into this world, to survive into this world. And all these life skills are required by each one of us. The moral values are required. You know, you have to be flexible, you have to be a good leader, somewhere or the other. In any point in time, you need to lead, lead by an example. You need to lead a team for certain tasks. You have to take certain initiatives for the better, working, for the better functioning of the institution. You have to be productive, and yes, you have to be empathetic, right? So all these skills are required. Now I have a question for you, for which you have to type the answer in the chat box. My question is, you, all of you might have a childhood dream, right? So is your dream still the same? Is your have you modified your dream with time, or have you changed that, that has that dream got changed with time? Have you changed your childhood dream, or have you modified it in some way that, with the changing needs? Okay, somebody said life skill is required for self sustainability. Yes, that is of course required. So my question is that, all of us has a child, used to have a childhood dream. So is it changing with changing times, or is has it got modified with changing times? Yes, it has got. And you have to modify. That means you are adaptable, that means you have become flexible. With time, you have seen the possibilities of, fulfilling your dream, with the changing scenarios. And you have seen that, yes, certain dream can be only achieved if I work in this direction. And then while working towards that direction, you what you have realized that, yes, now the scenarios have changed, the technology have changed, the era has changed, the demand has changed. Now I have to modify it into certain other direction. That means, yes, you people have become flexible. You people have, being you were adaptable. You have been adapted. You have adapted, and you have, changed or modified your dream accordingly. So that is adaptability and flexibility, if we talk about. So basically, to make our children adaptable or flexible for certain scenarios, which that means they have to change in certain ways. So how it can be, imparted to them is, there can be various ways. So one of the examples which can, easily make them adaptive or flexible can be that, you can take out slips, and you can guide them that, yes, today during the lunch, you're not going to sit with a particular set of friends you always have lunch with. Rather, what will you do? You will pick a slip from the bowl. Whosoever's name is written on that slip, you will have your lunch with that person, and you will know more about that person. And you will then tell us about what have you learned about that particular person during the lunchtime. Another way, another activity I must say to make them adaptable is, that you can make them walk into someone else's shoe, which means that there can be certain parameters that, you can make them write their favorite color, their favorite food, their favorite game, their best friend, and whatnot. So that you can give a few parameters to them, you can give few headings to them, and you can tell them to fill those headings. And the catch is that we are not supposed to tell what is to be done beforehand. So you'll just tell them to write their favorite things as per the category. Now, once everybody has written the things, now collect all those slips back, and then guide them that, Now you are going to shuffle all those slips, and randomly everybody is going to pick up one slip, and then whatsoever slip the person has got has to walk in that person's shoe. So even suppose if somebody has written the favorite food as maybe bitter gourd, but the person who has got that slip doesn't like bitter gourd, so that person will become flexible because that person has been assigned a task to eat that bitter gourd. So this is how you can make them adaptable and flexible, and it can, it can always be a fun element in all these activities. So now moving on to the leadership. Leadership basically is the ability to guide a team. So everybody in life at some point or the other has to be a leader, right? So we have to prepare our children to be the leaders for the futures, and for that, what can be done is you can ask them to lead certain quizzes. They can role play, they can create a band and can be the lead singer, can be the lead guitarist, and they can also be the monitors in the classroom, where they are acting as a leader of the classroom. They are setting the rules for the classroom, and they are acting as the responsible leaders for a team. This will help them to understand that yes, leading does not mean dictating. Leadership comes with certain responsibilities, and if we will give them the smallest of the tasks in at this tender age, we are subconsciously preparing them to be the future leaders, and we are making them ready for the leadership which they will they will come across in the future. It can also be done by roundtable conferences, or it can be done by TED talks also. You can have your own TED talk in the class, so they can be the leaders and they can lead the TED talk. So these are certain examples how you can develop the leadership skills in your children. Then comes taking initiatives. So now this is very important. So if you want to survive in today's scenario and in the scenarios coming into the future, you have to take initiative for one or the other thing. For that, you have to be active enough to look for the opportunities where you can learn or you can act upon them. And then you have to think creatively that how you can grab that opportunity and take the initiative, and you are able to you are willing to take the risk for that opportunity. And then you have to show the interest, the curiosity towards that problem, and also have to show the positive attitude towards solving that problem. That's how this skill of being taking initiative follows, right? So moving on ahead, if we talk about certain responsibilities or taking ownership, it also leads to taking initiatives, right? You can give small tasks to your children. That means a child can be a distribution monitor. That means you are handing over a responsibility to your to one of the children. One can be the chair monitor, one can be the board monitor. So even if you give them a task that you have to keep your classroom clean, they will act responsibly. Because when students set their own goals, they take responsibility and ownership of their learning. Let them be the leaders, let them be the initiative takers, and let them set their own goals. It will really help them to learn these skills. Then comes productivity. Productivity leads to prioritizing the task, how they are planning and applying the knowledge to enhance the quality of the work. So being productive has to be very important, right? If a person is doing a task but is not productive, it's taking a lot of time, or the quality of the work is not good, then all the efforts which are being made by the person are going in vain. So we have to teach them how to be productive, for a particular task and how they can use their knowledge for that task, right? Then comes the social and the cultural interactions. If we talk about communication, the skill out of the four C's, which is communication, works hand in hand with social and cultural interaction. If a person is able to communicate well, and if the person is able to work effectively as a team in diverse social and cultural environment, the person is able to fit himself or herself in the society. So for that, what can be done is, you can conduct circle times in classrooms. There can be QCTs, quality circle times in the classroom, wherein they have to respect the thought of each other, where they have to wait for their turns, where they have to accept the ideas or the viewpoints of others. And this will make them socially acceptable. You can also make them culturally literate. That means you can discuss about the diverse cultures which are existing around the globe, right? They can also share their emotions. You can celebrate certain days, suppose the Diwali has just passed by in India. So there are many ways to celebrate Diwali, and there are many stories related to Diwali in various states of India. So you can have a quality circle time wherein children coming from different states can tell their culture. They can share the story behind Diwali and how Diwali is celebrated in their state or in their culture. And it can happen with any of the festivals. It's not only about Diwali; it can be anything, right? If we talk about the emotions, even the emotions are to be accepted. If somebody is feeling angry towards someone, then the person has to accept that emotion, and why the person is angry, that person has to understand that why my friend is angry from me. So now, if I talk about all these skills, that means critical thinking, being innovative, being creative, working as a team, if you are able to evaluate, if you are able to use media, if you are able to communicate well, all these form 21st century skills, which are really important with the changing scenarios and the changing technologies. And that's all from my side. And I hope you have got a little bit of idea about what are 21st century skills and how it can be incorporated among children, among 21st century learners.
Thank you, ma'am. Quite engaging session. Like, everybody is like, they are contributing to it, they are finding it very informative, and then they are suggesting their own. And then there's a lot of
Yeah.
engagement going on. So I'm just looking at the questions. If you have any questions right now, you can ask ma'am right now. So just looking at the questions. Right. So, as the questions pour in, I just want to thank you for joining in. Like, few of my takeaways has been, other than you talking extensively about the 21st century skills, you talk about critical thinking, right? Incorporating and development of those critical thinking at very early age. And then there are so many activities that you incorporated for engagement. Like, how did you frame it? Did you prepare before the session, or like was it planned before any session started, or like you had like a community engagement to plan for such sessions, like engagement to be given to students?
So this is nothing, which I have planned specially for the session, or which I plan specially for my classes. If I talk about 21st century skills, I'm adaptive, I'm flexible. So these activities are actually coming from my classrooms. So I have been doing these activities as per the need of my class. So if I think that my learners are are not critical thinkers, so I'll pick certain critical thinking activities, certain problem solving activities, nothing else. What I'll do, I'll make them stand in a circle, I'll create a human chain, I'll just jumble them, I'll just make them tangle, and then I'll tell them to solve this chain. So this will help them to critically analyze the problem, to unsolve the chain without leaving the hands. So this is one of the ways in which you can, improvise and create your own activities as per the need of your classroom, as per the need of your learners. These all activities have been the examples of my classrooms, my teaching experience so far, and my, experiences with my children. So I don't call
Mhm.
my students or my learners as learners or
Right.
students. I call them my
Children.
children. So they are my
Right.
children. So I
That
do these
sounds,
things
that
with my
makes sense.
children.
Right. So we have a question here from Krishna. He's asking, how can I make a child a responsible leader
So
from like
there can be
beginning? How
many
should I?
ways for, yeah. So it depends upon in what parameter you want to make that child be a leader. So it can be, if you're talking about making that child responsible in the classroom to lead a small team, then what can be done is that you can make that child a class monitor, a language monitor maybe. So that child will be responsible for a particular set of tasks, right? And that child will be, will be taking that responsibility seriously. And that child will also learn how to communicate the message to others. Suppose if you have made a person, you have made a child a language monitor, and some of his peers are not speaking in a particular language, or they are using a foul language. Now the role of the child as a leader comes into play, that he doesn't have to, be rude with that person, and he has to convey the message. That right choice of words has to be made. So it will really help. And on the other hand, that child will be attentive and will be responsible, that he is taking care that nobody in the classroom is using any such kind of language. So this is how you can give small responsibilities, and subconsciously their mind is working towards being the leader.
Right. I think that is something you have been talking throughout the session about small gestures. You
Yes.
incorporate the small gestures for bigger roles, incoming bigger
Yes,
roles, right? Sometimes.
exactly. Because these small gestures, they condition these little ones very
Mhm.
nicely, because we don't have to, impose anything on them. We have to make the gestures which are acceptable by them. So if they are not accepting your gesture, so then they are not learning anything from it. You have to make them, they have to be willing to learn. So only if the gesture is gentle, the gesture is interesting, only then they are taking it up, they are absorbing it. So this is how you have to be creative, you have to be adaptable, you have to be, critical thinkers by yourself. That's why you have to be the educators of 21st century.
Great. Great session, ma'am. We'll be cutting this short as time does not permit us, but then it was a great session. Thank you for joining in.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you everyone for joining in. I hope you had the same experience that I had and had more questions. You can always contact or reach us at my center. We'll be bringing more of this session, and then we'll have another Centok session on 23rd November. Do join in. Thank you, ma'am. Please fill the feedback form for the certificate. Thank you again, and have a very good night. Bye bye.